things that could happen to us, I believe, because it just completely take the bid out of the U.S. dollar. Dollar falls. It means it's worth less. It means it takes more dollars to buy the exact same gallon of gasoline, loaf of bread, dozen eggs, right? So terrible idea. How... And it seems like China might be on board with this, right? And then China may be the big push. And they've talked about this for a long time. Do you think we do lose the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency?
The answer is no, not yet. And if we get our act together, and I think a major reform is going to have to come with the Federal Reserve, where they focus on the integrity and value of the dollar rather than trying to monitor and manipulate the U.S. economy, the sooner that happens, the better. Because people trust the dollar. They don't trust China. They don't trust Russia. They don't trust South Africa. They don't trust India. And so the BRICS, as they call them, they're tapping into the frustration about the dollar. But I think if we get our act together, and I think many of the things that the president is doing exactly that, well, the dollar will be supreme again. The dollar should be as good as gold. And so in terms of the dollar, that's in our hands. So I don't worry about Brazil, which is a chronic inflator anyway over time. They have a corrupt president now already, socialist. But that's in our hands. So I don't worry about Brazil, China, or anyone else. We get it right.
Well, yeah, and I hope you're right. I think we will, too. I think the world realizes that even though everyone hates America for our success, we're the best of all evil, so to speak, because you certainly don't want the yuan as the reserve currency or the Russian ruble. One of the premier, let's call you economists / just market mavens, what do you think of Bitcoin right now? We're 100 and something thousand. 107 high, has been as low as 77 in the last couple of weeks. Give us let's call it a 2-year projection, 3-year projection of Bitcoin price.
Well, Bitcoin was created 15 or 18 years ago as a high-tech cry for help, precisely because the people didn't trust the government. The problem with Bitcoin being a money, a currency, is that precisely, as you just touched on, fluctuates in value. You would not want to make a long-term contract in Bitcoin. Imagine if 5 years ago you took out a mortgage worth $250,000 and denominated in Bitcoin. Today, 5 years later, you'd be owing probably $1 million. But the technology is very real, and I think the time is going to come when inventors, creators, are going to create something like Bitcoin, is going to create a cryptocurrency that will be tied to the dollar, tied better to, I think, to gold, that will be easy to use for transactions. And that, I think, the technology is coming. And then you're going to see a rival to the government monopoly on money when people decide they'd rather use a cryptocurrency rather than an unreliable government currency. So that's not yet at hand, but it's going to come. And then you're going to see a battle royale as the government tries to suppress this. One other thing on this. We must not let the Federal Reserve or any other government create digital currencies.
Right there.
Because that is...
It defeats the exact purpose of a cryptocurrency. The whole purpose, as you pointed out, is to keep government's grimy hands off our asset, which is the currency, right? And it's deregulated finance. A regulated finance is just another form of a dollar. You're putting it into an electric form of a dollar, which is no different than Venmoing or any of the various ways you can exchange U.S. dollars. You're right. As long as the government can't figure out a way to tax it or regulate it, we're good with it. We just have to figure out which is the right one. Steve, really good having you on. Appreciate it. So I would take that as until there's a cryptocurrency that is at least as accepted as Bitcoin, but also one that has a little bit more stability, tied to something more stable than just simply how many buyers and how many sellers. Bitcoin's the answer. And then when something else comes along with a better foundation, don't be owning Bitcoin, be owning that one.
Well, imagine people making their own decisions on something like reliable money. We know what the government does with money. It's like airlines with frequent miles. They're always finding ways to make sure you have less of it, either directly or indirectly. So put it in the hands of the people. If you don't trust the people, then the whole world is lost. Not the whole basis of the American experiment.
Steve Forbes, thank you very much. Appreciate having you on Bolling today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Good to be with you.
folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Naples, Florida. Look at that. That's just a beautiful shot. Somebody's garden, I guess. I can't really see. I guess it looks like something's got beautiful. Oh, the Botanical Garden in Naples, Florida. And again, we've been talking to you about these bump shots. They're called bump shots. You bump into the segment with the shot, and Mad Dog and the crew. Got the crew cam in there, dog? You got it? You got it? Let me see it. There it is. There they are. The reason why we're doing this, there's a big, big ending, the E block of the show, the end of the show. You're going to really love it, and keep your mind on that shot right there. Here I am in the corner. See it? Just remember that. All right, folks. I want to remind you also about my podcast and YouTube page before we move on. They're updated daily. This show, of course, you can hear the interviews. You can hear the whole show later. But more importantly, we're following the P. Diddy stuff. It's incredible. It's off the charts what's going on there. The names that are being named. Barack Obama's name was named. Joe Biden's name was named. Meek Mills. Meek Mills. It goes on and on. The salacious details. You got to subscribe right there. Spotify, YouTube, Apple, anywhere. Just watch the show. It's free. Subscribe. All right, my next guest was Pastor Jackson Lamire, and I'm saying was because we pre-taped this. He's part of the White House Faith Council and is the founder of Pastors for Trump, which is a national coalition of pastors from all 50 states. His new book is called Chasing After the Wind, which focuses on the need for spiritual realignment in America today. Don't we all need it? Let's take a look at that interview. My next guest is part of the White House Faith Council and is the founder of Pastors for Trump, which is a national coalition of pastors from all 50 states. His new book is called Chasing After the Wind, which focuses on the need for spiritual realignment in America today. Welcome, Pastor Jackson Lamire. Pastor Jackson Lamire, let me ask you this. So you're part of the President's Faith Council, so I assume he gets an ear. You get an ear with him every so often or so. So the FBI, the DOJ, and the IRS are being investigated for systemic bias, specifically against Christians. Does the president know about this? What are your thoughts about it? Do you know about it? And do you have any more information or news to shed with our audience about that?
Yeah, well, hey, thank you so much for having me on. And, it's been a real honor. Not only to work on the campaign side, but to get to come up to the White House as the president is doing such a tremendous job. I was there in the Oval when he signed the executive order establishing the Faith Office. And that's one of the things that this office was created to do, was to identify the anti-Christian bias within the DOJ, FBI, but especially the IRS, and then to address it. And so this is something that Pastor Paula White, Jenny Korn, they're doing a phenomenal job at the White House in getting after this. And the president is aware. And this is on one of the high priority lists of what he wants to tackle, because there is a very strong anti-Christian bias that has been within our federal government. And I believe under the Trump administration, it's going to be eradicated, and walls will be built up to make sure it never happens again. And so, you know, the president, he loves pastors, and he loves having pastors up at the White House. And the faith office has actually had over 1,000 pastors in the first 100 days of the administration up to the White House. And the last time I was there, I was in the Rose Garden, then I went into the Oval, and the boss gave me this presidential challenge coin. And Eric, this is one of the neatest things I've ever been given. And so President Trump's doing a great job, and the White House faith office is getting after it.
So Pastor, I agree, and Trump has always been great about working with the evangelicals, with pastors, with others. What have you told him? What has he been told about this faith-based bias, and what has he said he's going to do about it? Can you give us specific examples?
Yeah, so there was a time that a few of us pastors were up at the White House. We were going to have an Easter dinner with the president. We had dinner, then he took us on a tour, and he took us up to the residence. And as we're making our way up there, he came across a portrait of Lyndon Johnson. And I'm sure your audience is familiar with the Johnson Amendment that tries to prohibit pastors or churches from being involved politically. And President Trump, he went to the portrait and he said, man, this guy, Lyndon Johnson, he really hated you pastors. And he brought up the Johnson Amendment and how one of his main goals is to completely remove the Johnson Amendment, not just with the executive pen, but getting it through the Senate. Now, that's going to be a challenge, but he recognizes this is an obstacle that we have to overcome, because it is used as a means to threaten churches and ministers via the IRS. And so the president's very aware, and he wants to get this done. And I believe that we have an opportunity. I'm not saying that right now it will happen, but we have an opportunity. And if we can get rid of the Johnson Amendment, I'm telling you, everything will change, because all of a sudden the IRS cannot threaten pastors or churches for encouraging their people to get out and vote and these things that they have done. And so the boss is well aware. He's also got a plan to get after it as well. And I believe we're going to see it happen during this administration. Interesting.
So, the Constitution famously really outlines separation of church and state. In other words, we shall have freedom of religion without interference from the government. So, in other words, is there a fine line between what you're doing, what you're hoping to do? And I get it, where you want to eliminate the bias that's occurring under previous administrations. But how do you square that circle, so to speak? If pastors are going to petition the president to get other groups, other agencies away from the churches, isn't that kind of church influencing state instead of state influencing church?
The context of separation of church and state was in a letter from Thomas Jefferson to a group of pastors, Baptist pastors in Danbury, Connecticut. And these pastors were concerned that the new federal government was going to get involved in the affairs of the church, just like in Europe. And Jefferson reassured them. He said, you don't have to worry. We've built up a wall of separation between church and state, meaning the state is not going to dictate the affairs of the church like in Europe. That did not mean that churches and pastors were not going to have an influence in the political sphere. You look at our founding fathers, they were all primarily Christians, and many of them were pastors. And so the church, pastors, Christians have always been involved in influencing American politics. And so separation of church and state is to protect the church from the state determining what the church does. And so, no, we need to have pastors and churches involved in influencing, just like every other group has representation. The only group that is attacked for getting involved politically is churches. And we've got to bring that down, because we need churches involved. We need pastors involved.
How is Trump handling, the whole, pro-life versus abortion issue? And are you making inroads? I know you are with Trump because he's pro-life. I get it. But there's this whole push, and there's a slow, I call it a creep. Every time Trump's not in office or not talking about it, kind of creeps towards what you're talking about, where onerous regulations at the time, FBI coming down on churches that were kind of boycotting or petitioning in front of Planned Parenthood offices and whatnot. Will we clean that up, and will the pro-life folks finally get an equal voice in America?
Well, I sure hope so. And I believe the opportunity is here to accomplish that because we do have a president that is, to your point, very pro-life. You know, he's responsible for Roe v. Wade being overturned and sent back to the states where it belongs. It's a state matter. And so we have a president who's in the driver's seat, who is doing a phenomenal job. A lot of this, though, requires cooperation with the other side. It's Congress and the Senate. And so we've got our work cut out for us with these midterms that are going to be coming up. But yes, I do believe the opportunity is there because pro-life organizations and individuals have been picked on greatly by the IRS. And a lot of this stuff's going to come out, get exposed, and then dealt with and hopefully eradicated by the time that the Trump administration comes to a close.
Sir, we're all Christians. I'm Catholic. I assume you're not, because I'm guessing. But we have a new pope. What are your thoughts on the new Pope Leo XIV and his left lean, his socio-political leaning towards the left, as was the former Pope? I'm sure you can at least weigh in on it, right?
Yeah, so I may not be Catholic, but I got an opinion, and I have a lot of Catholic friends. And so, you know, it's an interesting thing because all the Catholics that I know, and I know a lot of them, they're all super conservative. They're beyond conservative with marriage, life, gender, and just all these things that as Christians, we all take for granted because we believe in the Bible. And so, you know, the previous Pope, Pope Francis, was very, very progressive. And obviously with this new Pope, there has been some hinting that he might be a little bit, but then there's been some other things that are encouraging. The fact that he did reaffirm marriage being between a man and a woman. He reaffirmed the value of life. And so I just don't think that the previous Pope, or maybe even this Pope, represents the majority of Catholics and their views and their doctrine. And so hopefully he does a good job. He's the first American Pope, so we're rooting for him. We want him to do a good job. And I hear his brother, though, is quite conservative. I don't know if you've seen some of his tweets.
I have. And I think he called himself less liberal than the Pope, but okay, we'll give you that. And if that's anything, then we'll take it. Sir, very quickly, the book, it's called Chasing After the Wind, The Pressure of Platform Culture in the Church and How It's Destroying Leaders from the Inside Out. Give us a couple of seconds on that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I wrote this book out of my own struggle because I, like everyone else, we're all chasing happiness. And there's so many things that promise us happiness, success, wealth, fame. And happiness, though, it's elusive. We're always chasing it, but we never seem to catch it, kind of like chasing after the wind. And so this book is to help people find true happiness in life. And, you know, Coach Lou Holtz, he said something that I agree with so much. He said, if you want to be happy for an hour, go eat a steak. If you want to be happy for a day, go play around the golf. If you want to be happy for a week, go on a cruise. But if you want to be happy for a lifetime, get to know Jesus. And so that's what this book is all about. And people can get it on Amazon or my website, jacksonlawmeyer.com.
There you go. He's the founder of Pastors for Trump, Pastor Jackson Lawmeyer. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, folks, we will be back in 2.5 minutes. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Mad Dog. Radebeul, Germany? Is it Radebeul, Germany?
Radebeul?
Okay, sure. Sure, dog. Okay, sure, maybe. Look at that tree. That's a beautiful picture of a tree, Mad Dog. Thank you. Thank you for that.
I know.
Again, folks, we're doing this because there's something special at the end of the show. It's called the Deep Tease. We're deep teasing you to stay to the end because you're going to love the last segment of the show. In the meantime, the next guest, well, we interviewed him and we had to replay this interview. It was phenomenal. International superstar, rock star, singer, songwriter, record producer, and my good friend, Kid Rock, who joined me for an interesting conversation a couple weeks back. Take a look. All right, let's bring in my good friend. I'm going to say my good friend, Kid Rock. I've known Kid Rock, international superstar rocker, just all-time great celebrity. I hear he's a pretty damn good pickleball player, too. So I hear, Kid Rock, really good to have you, my friend. If I might start out with this, Trump plus Elon. We haven't talked in a long time on tape. Trump plus Elon, how does a wealthy New York billionaire president, 78 years old, end up becoming bros with Elon Musk, a younger tech guru bro, and then celebrities and rock stars like you? How did he get the whole world behind him, Kid Rock?
Man, I think Elon just got on board because he wanted to help his country. He saw the waste and the crap. I mean, what were you going to do? What were your choices, to go for the Democratic Party, and their disarray that they've been in with Kamala Harris? Trump's, proven himself the first 4 years to be the smartest guy in the room, hands down. And he's a lot of fun beyond that. So, I just think it makes sense. Somebody wanted to help their government, didn't want to get paid for it, wanted to help their country. So, of course, he's going to come in. I got to know Trump early on in his administration, was a big supporter from when he came down the escalator. And, he's done nothing but prove me right.
Kid, how do you feel? I think Bannon calls people like you and I original gangster MAGA crew. How do you feel about the newbies? How do you feel about Bezos coming on board, or Mark Zuckerberg coming on board, or that lunatic Lindy Lee, who used to be a Kamala Harris advisor, supporter, senior aide, all of a sudden saying, I didn't really like them. Now I'm pro-Trump. I know we want the bigger party, we want everyone on board, but I feel a little offended by it. How about you?
I think they got to prove themselves. That's the bottom line. They got to, you can come in and, people call it kiss the ring or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's kind of, sleep with one eye open with them and, let them prove, what they believe in and who they support and what policies they get behind. And, if they want to keep, speaking of, Meta and all that, if they want to keep, what do they call it? Shadow boxing or shadow banning people like me and Joe Rogan and, certain outspoken people, I'm sure yourself. So, I just say sleep with one eye open, but welcome aboard. But, what was it? Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Ronald Reagan also, beware the Trojan horse. I agree with that one, Kid. So Trump tends to kind of piss off the rest of the world. Let's be honest. I mean, Gulf of America, what a great idea. It's so logical, made so much sense. Gulf of America, Greenland, Canada, 51st state. This one created a bit of an international incident, I think. So there's a guy named Raphael Glucksmann. He's an MEP, which is a member of European Parliament, who said, we want our Statue of Liberty back. We're from France. We want our Statue of Liberty back. Listen to Caroline Levitt's response to that.
So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
What's Kid Rock's response to the French?
Boom, mic drop. Mic drop. That young lady is something else. She is a boss. Yeah. She is a boss. I mean, if they really want it back, I'd say just let's weld a big gold middle finger on it and send it back.
I was thinking someone can make one of those memes of the helicopter picking up the Statue of Liberty and like bang it, clang it around the Eiffel Tower and drop it back. You really want it? Take it. It's yours.
I think we got to remember, when these, like she said, these low-level, no-name politicians come in to say this stuff, we shouldn't let it divide us from there's. I know several French people who run companies over there in Paris and stuff, and I'm good friends with them. They are huge Trump fans, huge, the pro-America agenda, and they wish they had more of that in their country. So, we got to remember there's still good people in these countries, even though you got these knucklehead left-wing lunatic politicians always, spewing off this crazy stuff. So we got to remember we got some good people over there, but yeah, France has got to definitely turn around some of their country.
Yeah. And how many Canadians do we have right here in America who will come up to me and say, 51st state, not a bad idea. A lot of Canadians would actually enjoy being part of the United States.
I think so. I mean, I know, we're actually on our Rock the Country tour taking Nickelback's headlining the Friday night with us. And I remember them telling me years ago, I was asking them about, socialized medicine. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but they, at the time, it was like, they were not, and I've talked to plenty of other Canadians. I mean, I'm from Detroit. We're, the only place in America where you can drive south to Canada. So, we spent a lot of time there as kids, and especially touring, doing other things. And there's some great people in Canada. I'd say the majority when you get outside, like,
Yeah, but kid, what about these Canadian this Canadian knucklehead, one of those Parliament people who said we're going to shut off electricity, power, and gas service to people in Detroit and in America if you don't stop with the tariff things? What's your message to them?
Good luck defending yourself if something bad goes down.
Yeah. We are fortunate. And they're lucky. Just the proximity to the United States.
I mean, they're basically going to try the bigger penis game with Trump, and they're not going to win.
I have no background to comment on whether that's an accurate or not accurate statement. I digress. Rock. So your concerts now, you talk about your tour, your concerts. Are you seeing a different crowd come out? Because, for a while, people were like, Kid Rock with Trump. They didn't really know if they liked Trump or not. Now they love him. Young people just adore Trump now. Are you seeing a swoosh of support, especially for you?
I mean, I've been pretty fortunate, pretty blessed that things have kind of been slow and steady at the wheel for, 25 years. It's always been a pro-American crowd. I mean, it's not like I just started, riding out on, American themed, motorcycles and dropping American flags and everything else that I do. It's a big, patriotism celebration at the show. So, you definitely see kids now for sure. I don't know if things have really changed. I like to look at it. It's kind of like, it's when times are hard, you kind of weed out who your friends really are. And so that's all it's done to me. The few people or however many there's been that panties are all in a bunch over my politics or standing up for what I believe in, loving my country, like good riddance,
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to have a great time at my show anyway. So,
right. Exactly. If I could like your songs or your lyrics. I guess, Rock, before we let you go, the relationship with Trump, how you've always been close to him. Does you pick up the phone and your phone rings and says it's the White House's president wants to talk to Kid Rock? Is that how it goes down?
Yeah. He's got a direct number. I can't believe he's still got it as president. Just, it's 50-50. He's a busy guy, but I know the times to catch him. If I really have to talk to him about something a lot of times we just talk about anything. It's not, I don't drill him on politics 24/7. I'd love to get this ticketing thing, to put a cap on the resale of ticket prices. So, which is pretty far out for, us capitalists, people, deregulation people. But, speaking of France, they actually do it in France, and it's worked, so working class people can afford to go to multiple shows, because right now it's just ridiculous. And when I say, you don't see a lot of artists saying this, or managers or people, because we're actually making more money under the current system. But I've been the first one to say I'm a little overpaid. Like, I would rather get my tickets into the hands of fans, So that's one thing I've drilled him about a little bit, which he's going to take some action on. We're going to see where it ends up.
Well, maybe Doge can wiggle into that area. Speaking of Doge,
he put Alina Habba on it. She's a pit bull. I love her.
She is. I thought she was going to be the press secretary, to be honest with you, but Caroline Leavitt's doing a great job, and either one of those two would be great. Elon, what's your relationship like with Musk? And you must cross paths with him the amount of time you're close to Trump. He's always seems to be there.
we text a little bit here and there, and I got to sit with him at the UFC fight when I first met him for I don't know, 4 hours plus or something. Then he came out on the golf course and hung out with us. We had a great time there, had some lunch and stuff. So I would consider him a friend at this point. He's a lot of fun, man. I mean, it's kind of people always ask me that, what's it like? I'm like, we're always, every time I'm with him, we're laughing and clowning about something, like who had the weirdest outfit on the golf course. I'm trying to get some sun, so I'm golfing in a wife beater. It's 85 degrees. He comes out, he looks like a goth kid in like a black sport coat, black pants, and so I'm teasing him, and we're having good laughs. And you wouldn't think the guy has two nickels to rub together when you're hanging out with him. We're just, just fun,
just
dude.
a couple of regular guys, the richest man in the world, one of the international rock star, Kid Rock, hanging out at the golf course. I would love to be hanging with you folks. And by the way, I'd be drinking vodka. I wouldn't be drinking the beer, just for the record. Kid Rock, remember everyone, go to these. He's got 3 separate tours going on. Kid, you want to give us a brief synopsis of what the 3 tours are?
Yeah, we got 7 arena shows. With Chris Jansen on a few, Uncle Cracker on a couple of other ones. And I mean, it's going to be a celebration of, of going into these next 4 years of, people who, got a lot of credit. We're going to celebrate, but we're going to celebrate with a lot of music and good times. It's not going to be all politics.
I love the rocky country too. I got to check out that Ocala, Florida one. Kid Rock, appreciate your time. Very, very busy man. I know you're in your rehearsals for your upcoming tours, and appreciate you making a few minutes for Bolling and 69 minutes. Thank you so much, Kid Rock.
Thanks, Eric. You're the man.
See you soon. All right, folks. Be right back. Oh, very nice. Cayman Islands, Mad Dog, been there. That's one of the safe
beautiful.
havens of the banking system, and so a lot of people kind of go there and hide some money over there because they don't have extradition for banking to the United States. Kind of a wacky place, but beautiful place. So been there on vacation. Really, really gorgeous place. All right, Democrats, really, really a bunch of dirty, lying group, aren't they? The more we find out about what's going down over the past few years, the cover-ups, the denials, the lies, the corruption, each story kind of clouds over the previous one. They released the her audio finally, and we're still busy talking about the dementia cover-up. And then we find out about a cancer cover-up. It's a lot to take in all at once, don't you think? But you know what I thought about today? We never really processed that her report and the audio that's finally been released. Last week, we dealt with the reality of the cancer that sent shockwaves, but I'm old enough to remember when the her report came out and these people, was it 2 years ago? Under 2 years ago, these people who want so badly for us to forget did everything they could to make that story go away. Like the Hunter Biden laptop story, like the dementia, and the cheap fakes. How many times did they call all these stories cheap fakes when it was obviously Biden deep in the throes of dementia? Like the cancer cover-up, they're now trying to desperately cover up. It's a cover-up of the cover-up of the cover-up. But don't worry, our team went through and found the receipts. Folks, we got the receipts of their cover-ups and their flagrant issues and their fouls. Like the Jamie Raskin, Congressman, shooting down Robert Hur's take on Biden's condition. Listen.
Does this raise alarms about whether President Biden is fit to serve another term in office?
Well, undoubtedly, that's what Robert Hur, who comes from my state, he's a Maryland Republican. Undoubtedly, that's what he intended to do with those ridiculous cheap shots. I just spent an hour with President Biden and the entire Democratic caucus where he regaled and entertained everyone for an hour.
Yeah. I'm sure he did entertain them. I mean, look at Anthony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, Jake Sullivan, and Biden called Kamala Harris Vice President Trump. Remember that?
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Number one.
Did you see the guy next to Lloyd Austin like, oh, crap. Well, you're telling me these people saw nothing strange? They didn't think it was at all odd. And not only that, did he refer to Kamala Harris as Vice President Trump, but at no time after did he even correct himself. He didn't even realize he was making mistakes all over the place. And no one. That was Ron Klain, who, by the way, who did that one. Ron Klain, who apparently nicknamed Prime Minister because he was really in charge as Biden's chief of staff. Klain said this to defend him to the public after Joe Biden fell on his face at that graduation ceremony.
What do you say to people who are concerned? He is robust. He's robust mentally. He's robust physically. And what happened to him today could have happened to anyone who was up there moving across that stage.
Well, it was these sandbags' fault. Get that? No, Trump put it there. Blame it on MAGA extremists who were trying to somehow undermine Biden. Their lies, no bounds. And yet the deflection game was real.
Can I just point out, though, that, I mean, it's not just making an issue of Biden's age. It's lying. It's saying he's senile, saying he's demented, saying he's out of it. I mean, I think it's important to sort of state for a fact that a lot of these are just...
Right. Mentally, he's quite acute.
Yeah, right. Okay. And the forever Biden cover-up Hall of Famer, Joe Scarborough. Now, we got to take a second and talk about this. Joe Scarborough will forever want to hide under his desk when he hears this one. Joe, I'll never, ever let you forget this one. Watch.
But comparing that guy's mental state, I've said it for years now, he's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years.
Everyone around's like, oh, crap, why is he going there? It's probably one of the most embarrassing clips of all time. You know, the Hall of Fame, Internet Hall of Fame, so to speak. Top tier idiocy, that one. And that was just last year. And who can forget when Joe Biden wandered off and had to be led back. Folks, remember, he was just wandering off into space, into that field. It's like, someone get him. Someone grab him. Get him. Where's he going? The cover-up artists, folks, found a new way to distract and distort. They found a new way to lie to the American people. The mainstream media treated Americans like we're stupid. Yep, those are all cheap, fake o'clocks.
You've probably heard of deep fakes, but just last week, as President Biden was at the G7 summit in Italy, cheap fake clips went viral on social media and were picked up by some news outlets.
Cheap fakes, what are they now? Well, then the Democrats found a new toy to play with and took cheap fakes as far as they possibly could take it.
There's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media, broadcast, print, and social media. It is to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden directly from Republican National Committee social media accounts and then use those videos to spread messages virally to cast doubt on President Biden's fitness for office. Here is this headline from the New York Post, quote, Biden appears to freeze up, has to be led off stage by Obama at Megabucks LA fundraiser.
Oh, Nicole Wallace. Nicole. Does this look like a cheap fake to you? I would argue that it's neither cheap nor fake. Discuss amongst yourselves. It's like the leftist machine forgot that there's something called the internet. How could they forget? Didn't Al Gore invent it or something like that? Oh, maybe not. But none of that matters, actually, because to some of the people involved in the massive cover-up, they just want it to go away.
You guys didn't know that Joe Biden was old? I am so sick of all of this Joe Biden consternation. What Joe Biden did or didn't do, what reporters did or didn't do. It is, look, no shade to anybody. The country has moved on. Joe Biden has moved on. There is a person in the White House now who is tweeting at 3 in the morning about Taylor Swift and Beyonce.
Beyonce, like the one who took $11 million, to be exact, to speak at a rally for Kamala Harris, and she didn't even feel like singing. No, sorry, Donnie Lemon. We're not in the mood to move on, because this isn't just about the fact that Biden had cancer or was working with only 5% of his brain. What we care about is the fact that the Biden administration, the Democrat Party, and the media covered it up. It's not just about Biden, it's about the handlers, the family, the media, the politicized agencies. This proves that Democrats are the real fascists and the ones that the mainstream media is made up of traitors and liars. It proves the deep state exists, and we were called conspiracy theorists for saying any of that, any of the above, which was now proven to be true. So sorry, not sorry, Donnie. We're not moving on. Not now and at no time soon. And by the way, just for a second, let's talk about if Joe was out there and gone and they were all covering it up. And now we know that they called the White House some sort of board of directors. Well, where the hell was Joe Biden? Well, shouldn't he be the chairman of the board of directors? He was lost. He was lost in the shuffle. So I want to know who ran the country for the last 4 years. Don't you? We deserve to know. All right, before we head to break, I want to remind you about my podcast and YouTube page, updated daily. You got to subscribe, though. We're all over the Diddy trial. It's crazy what's going on over there. You're going to really, really like this content. It's blowing up. Everyone wants to do it. Subscribe down there, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Rumble, iHeart, wherever. It's always free. Make sure you subscribe. When we come back, though, the segment, the block you've all been waiting for. We're going to have a lot of fun next. right, so here is, it's called the bump shot. We told you about that. This is the control room cam. We had that installed. So early on, I was like, let's put a camera in the control room. I want the guys to be able to talk into the show, become part of the show. And if you notice, I really don't, we sometimes we make a mistake here and there. It's just part of TV, and you can't lose your mind about it. You just got to have fun with it. But these guys work really hard. And I wanted to, there's Mad Dog right there. There's Ben,
yes,
Drew.
There's Ben right there.
Luke's in the back row and Trish are in the back row. Once in a while, Colton's back there and others have been in and out. Matt's around sometimes too. So great crew. But we want to tell you about it because this is what we do, and this is what we do in bump shots. Sometimes, well, some bloopers happen. Let's call it that. Like, well, why don't we play the first one, Mad Dog? Is that a town, Mad Dog? Mad Dog, is that a pickleball court in New Jersey? That's a new town. Pickleball is so popular in this town. They just named the town. Let's just call ourselves, forget Bridgewater, let's call ourselves Pickleball Court, New Jersey. I love it. So, pickleball court, New Jersey. I was like, a pickleball court in New Jersey may have, but so here's the point, folks. That happened early on when we first started doing the show. So now I have to make sure every thing up top with a little name banner thing is I don't know, right? Or explains what it is.
So I saw it as pickleball court. They were playing pickleball court, and I just put the locator up as pickleball court. But it was Bridgewater.
Yeah, got it. Okay, how about when we want to have a little fun with, there was a cowboy hat sitting around the studio for a while. Let's see, play it, roll it. All right, there it is. Welcome back, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Check it out. Marco Island, although we put it up there as Macro Island, we'll go with Marco Island instead. It's okay. We're close enough. It's a beautiful place on the west coast of Florida. Little typo, man. Dog, little typo.
Just a little typo. I was dealing with a bunch of stuff, and then...
You're dealing with a bunch of... That's true. I know.
A bunch of live events, so what can I say?
It is. It gets a little hectic in there because, remember, they have a bunch of shows going, different cities, different live events, waiting for Trump to come out, which, by the way, he loves the 4 o'clock hour for some reason. All right, how about this one? All right. I got to let the folks know. Mad Dog, come on. Voice of God. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Tell them what you did, right, bumping in. So do you have a countdown as you count into becoming live again on TV? Tell me what you did.
I did 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then I got into the bump because we're in Mississippi.
We're in Mississippi. Mississippi. Well done, Mad Dog. Well done. Although I'm not sure why we're showing a picture of a little, was that a creek, a lake? What is that thing?
Yeah, it's a creek that I found.
Got it. Okay, now this is your turn to get back at me. Go ahead and tell them.
I want to point out, you called the Mississippi River a creek. So I mean, I did too, because you said it.
It looked a little bit like a creek, did it not, at that point? It was, some points, the Great Mississippi is very wide at points. At that point, it looked like almost as skinny as the Rio Grande, which illegals can walk right across. Almost look like you walk across the Mississippi there, but probably wouldn't be a good idea. By the way, do you know 80% of the population of America is east of the Mississippi, even though that Mississippi River cuts the landmass of the country almost directly in half in the middle? 80% on the east coast, east of it, and only 20% or so on the west. All right, another one. Case Mad Dog wearing the little NASDAQ's hat. There's Ben. There's the guys there. Hey, by the way, guys, I got you guys a whole slew of scratch-off lottery tickets. You win anything?
We got Ben won $50.
There you go. Okay.
So that's the big winner. I didn't really win much.
I think you have some more to go, so we'll keep
we'll keep going. We'll let you know the results.
Yeah, I donated to the Florida lottery, but of course we have fun.
Ben won $10 right after that. A little bit right after that. I don't know if he cashed in the 50.
See, now the recommendation was just pull them. Everyone scratches, but you pull the funds. But listen, hey, I guess meritocracy in the control room. How about this? This is one of my favorite ones. Check it out. Hey, Ben, I know you've been to Nashville, Nash Vegas. Affectionately called Nash Vegas because it's almost as fun as Las Vegas. A rainy day in Nashville, huh?
Yeah, it looks like it's either raining or snowing.
Come on, brother.
I know. It looks thicker than rain.
It's May 13th.
All right.
It was 70 degrees
What's worse is right before we got on, I asked if it was snowing, and we checked the weather, and it said it was raining, and I still said that even in the hot seat over here.
And what I love about it was later on, I'm like, Ben, what was that about? Tell him what you told me. Do you remember?
I do not remember.
You said something about that seat makes you say stupid stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is a perfect example, this whole montage here.
It might. Next one. Oh, Mad Dog, can you get on Voice of God for me? Can you get in here, Mad Dog? Press the right button, Mad Dog.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what? You know that is the home of the Chicago Cubs. You know where I grew up, Mad Dog?
Did you grow up there?
Go. I used to ride my bicycle. We were very poor. I used to ride my bicycle from one of the poor suburbs of Chicago to Wrigley Field. And in the left field, there's a little area where the trucks came in and out, food trucks, etc., groundkeepers trucks, and there's a fence, and we used to climb over the fence and sneak into Wrigley Field and watch Cubs games for free. And then we go back out and wait for a home run ball to go over the left field fence on Waverly or Ashland, one of those two streets. Anyway, that brings a tear to my heart. Well done, Mad Dog. Well done. Thank you for that.
You got it.
Tear to my heart? What the hell was I talking about?
No, it was your.
I know, but it brings a tear to my heart. No, it makes, I don't know, whatever. We have another one? Now, Mad Dog, this is really cool. Come on, let's tell the folks what this is. This is an active volcano.
This is an active volcano.
Yeah, where?
I don't even know how to say it.
Let's try.
Kilauea, Hawaii.
Okay, cool. Kilauea, Hawaii. Well, okay, so we can't always pronounce towns in Hawaii and
I have
other
hard
places.
Pronouncing stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have another one?
I have a hard
by
time.
chance?
It's
Is another hard one? Is this next one?
Yeah, this is another one that's.
Let's try it. Let's take a look. Mad Diggity Dog, get on. Give me Voice of God. Mad Diggity Dog.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you pronounce that city on the island.
Orangestad.
Orangestad. Some Arubans are going to call and say, you idiots are wrong. Can someone call us and let us know how to pronounce Orangestad? Aruba? I'm not sure. You know what you didn't do? I see there's only one more, but yeah, Mad Dog. All right, play this one first, and then I'm going to call you out. Go ahead. Give it to you, Steve. Talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, brother. Eric, always great. Thank you, sir. Those tee-ups are fantastic, and the clips are amazing. Mad Dog, the clips are amazing. Don't ever change.
So the great Steve Bannon gives Mad Dog a wonderful shout out. What you didn't do, Mad Dog. Remember, we bumped in on San Francisco, and there was like a little hill off to the side. I said, what is that over there? What's that hill over there? And you said, what did you say it was?
It was a volcano.
It was a volcano.
But it was Alcatraz. It was behind Alcatraz, and it looked like a volcano because it was foggy.
Got it.
And I don't make clips. I mean,
he's great. This is my favorite time of day. Literally, the favorite time is when you talk to Steve Bannon for a while, because we always learn something, and he likes you. The good news is he calls you out a lot, and that's always positive. Guys, you are great in that control room. You guys are wonderful. Appreciate your time. And you guys at home, have a great night, and we'll see you again tomorrow.